Well, congratulations, first of all. What
Thank
a
you.
movie. I don't think I sat still in my seat
Oh, really?
for 30 seconds at a time. It was incredibly suspenseful. And wow, not for the faint at heart or the very squeamish.
Yeah.
Or
much.
it is, but you'll end up watching part of it with your eyes closed
Yeah.
and peeking, which I did sometimes. But well done. And I have to ask you this question, and I'm sure that it's something that you get asked all the time, but how does a Welsh-born writer-director end up making not one but two Indonesian martial arts films?
Well, what happened was when I was based in the UK, my wife is Indonesian Japanese, and so her family are from Indonesia, and I got hired to do a documentary out in Indonesia for 6 months, and the documentary was all about Indonesian culture and also pencaksilat, the martial art that exists over there. While I was out there for that 6 months, I got to kind of figure out what it was like to live there and work there, learn more about the culture, and more importantly, I got to learn more about pencaksilat. I didn't really know anything about it at first. Like, I was a big fan of martial arts movies, but I'd never heard of silat before. So then throughout the process of that documentary, I got to learn about the culture, the practice of the martial art. But then I also got to meet Iko then, who was one of the students of the masters we were following. So from that documentary, I took my storyline from my first movie, my martial arts discipline, the culture, and then also my lead actor as well.
And the rest is history, so to
Yeah,
speak.
exactly.
You mentioned that you were a fan of martial arts. So who
Yeah.
influenced you? You watched them growing up? I mean, were you a
Yeah,
big fan?
my dad has been the guy that's kind of like pushed film into my life since I was a very young boy. So we watched a lot of like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan films together and stuff like that. And living in Wales, it's kind of difficult to find those movies. So he'd always kind of like look at lots of different video rental stores in order to find these like VHS tapes of Jackie Chan films and things. So I could keep watching them and keep growing up with them.
Now, you mentioned the Indonesian martial arts, which is called silat,
Silat,
you
yeah.
mentioned. So how is it different? How would you describe this form of martial arts?
In Indonesia alone, there are like over 200 different styles of silat. Each of them borrow different elements. Sometimes they can be like animal based, and sometimes like there's a specific sort of style or delivery of it. I think in a way, like a lot of martial arts, they all kind of share very similar traits between them, but it's the packaging that kind of looks different. I think like also in terms of the spiritual teaching, sometimes that'll be different according to different religions as well. It's like a lot of silat now is kind of incorporated in Islam's teaching as well. So there's a different element to it as well.
Are there a lot of martial arts movies made in Indonesia?
There used to be back in the 70s and the 80s. There used to be it was a boom of martial arts movies being made there. Cynthia Rothrock was quite a big star in Indonesia for a while. She did a couple of films out there, and it kind of stopped after a while. And Merantau was the first sort of Indonesian action film for like about 15 years. So we kind of hopefully kick-started the genre back again. Now we're starting to see more Indonesian action films starting to come out now. There's one opening this month, I think, as well. Yeah.
And that's thanks to you kind of reviving it? I mean, do you think you had a big
I won't
part
take
in this?
credit for it, but I think it's more a case of like our film. Now we were very lucky. Our film did quite well and got released abroad, and that kind of opening up people's ideas in Indonesia. Then that there is an international market for Indonesian cinema has sort of led to people wanting to try martial arts and try action cinema now.
How interesting.
So yeah.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the martial arts fight scenes, which there are a lot of here. First of all, a lot of it was shot in long hallways, in small rooms, and boy, it's just riveting to watch. Can you talk a little bit about your shooting style and how you accomplish this?
Okay.
How you make us all squirm in our seats that way?
Yeah. For the way we shoot martial arts, one of the things I tend to try to avoid is being sort of like, even though we have like claustrophobic settings, we need to get the camera far back enough so we can see the choreography as it happens. Because the guys who design the choreography, they're specifically skilled in silat. So I kind of want to show that when they've done 3 or 4 months worth of design work, I want to show all the moves. I don't want to kind of hide it with close-ups and like rapid editing and things like that. So it was a bit of a challenge because me and my DOP kind of discussed the idea of treating it more documentary style. So we wanted to go handheld, but not handheld to the point where you couldn't see the detail. So that was like a challenge for us, and is how to kind of represent it. In terms of the sort of the sucker punch moments, the sort of like violent scenes where you get a gut reaction from them. I know this film is kind of more aggressive than Merantau, like a lot more violent, but at the same time we didn't want to sort of dwell on it too much. So we'll kind of hit you hard with something, but not stay on it for too long. So it's kind of, it's there, it happens, and it hits you hard, but then we cut to something else then. So that was kind of one of the things we kind of wanted to trying to find a good balance between that, to make you gasp, but not make you repulsed by the violence.
Okay. Well done, well done. Can you give us a sense of how long it took to shoot one of those scenes? How many takes do you shoot?
Okay, yeah. Well, in terms of takes, that can differentiate between every single shot. Sometimes we'll have a shot where we're kind of convinced that it's going to be a long one. We think like we're not going to get it in the first few takes, and sometimes we're lucky and the guys will perform very well and get it done very quickly, like 5-6 takes sometimes. 5-6 takes is considered good. Bad is 40 takes, which we reached a couple of times on this shoot. Wow. The first movie we did, the first shot of the entire film, we had like a Steadicam 2-minute shot with a fight scene where Eco takes out 5-6 guys. And that was 56 takes, and we did about 10 hours of shooting together.
Wow.
That was crazy.
So you've learned a little bit since the first one.
We learned a little bit on this one. Yeah, that was the one thing we learned. Like a good friend of mine, Mike Leader, he works in Hong Kong in the film industry there. Like he gave me some really good constructive criticism, which was like, you know, don't lose all of the long takes, because in Merantau we did a lot of long takes where Eco would take out 5-6 guys. And he said, don't lose them all, but learn where the right place is to put those long takes in, and then the rest of it kind of find slightly shorter shots and, you know, make it easier for the fighters, because if they go take after take after take, they just get tired, and then you lose the power and you lose the pace of the fighter. Wow. So that was one of the things I learned, and it was a big lesson for us on the second movie.
How about injuries, mishaps?
We had a few, but nowhere near as bad as it might look on the film. We want to make the stunts and the sort of the falls and the sort of the dangerous stuff look a lot more dangerous than it actually is when we execute it. So the safety of the fighters and the stunt guys is paramount on those shoots. So we've got like we've always got paramedics on standby on the set, and we kind of try to find a way to make the stunt look incredibly dangerous, but the execution of it's very, very safe. So yeah, we had some injuries, but not life-threatening ones.
Like just a little black eye or that kind of thing,
well,
broken bones.
We had one where one of the guys gets hooked with the nightstick and pulled down, and then Eco puts the knife to the guy's neck. Now, the camera was from the side view, so it was supposed to be pretty safe, and all Eco had to do was just bring the knife by his shoulder, because the block-in is fine, we wouldn't see the impact. And the guy, all he had to do was just get pulled by the stick, and his head come down straight. What happened was when he got pulled down, his head came down, but then drifted to the side. And then as the knife was coming in here, it hit. It was like a soft wood blade, but it hit right inside his cheekbone and cut his face. Now, Eco freaked out and immediately grabbed the guy by the head and was like asking him if he was okay. But I'm like 5-10 meters away on a monitor, and I'm thinking, where did it stab? Because it happened so fast. I'm like, has he been hit in the eye? Because if you're in the eye, then it's the worst case scenario. So we were all running in and trying to separate them and check like what happened. But luckily, he had a little cut here, like about an inch away. And yeah, we put a plaster on him and he was fine, and he did the next take.
Wow, and he did the next take.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite something.
Yeah.
Now, do you speak Indonesian?
Yeah, on the first project I didn't. I relied a lot on my assistant director team to kind of help translate for me. But during the process of like designing the second feature and working with the guys in the choreography, because it was me and Eco and Yayan were working every single day, they learned a little bit of English from me, and then I learned a lot of Indonesian from them. So we kind of speak in sort of like, I use broken Indonesian, they use broken English, and we somehow understand each other.
Wow.
So yeah.
And the crew, the crew too, are they English speaking?
I mean, a lot of the crew speak English, because like what tends to happen is a lot of commercials are shot there, and a lot of the commercials are sometimes they're directed by people from outside of Indonesia, like from Thailand or from Australia. So they tend to learn English to just make the shoot a lot more easy. But I've started learning Indonesian now. They taught me bad words at first, but now they're teaching me the good stuff.
Everybody learns the bad ones first,
I know.
Right?
And they never tell you that the bad things first either, until you've said it a few times in front of other people, and then they tell you. By the way, you just said this.
Learn the hard way. A movie like this, I mean, can you tell us why you feel that an audience should see this in a movie theater as opposed to... You know, well, there are so many mediums you can watch movies on now with the technological age.
I think every filmmaker will probably answer the same thing. Every aspect of the film, in terms of the visual and the audio, we optimize it to be seen in a movie theater. So, like, if somebody watches my film on a laptop, then they're not hearing the music and the sound effects exactly the way I want them to hear it. They're not seeing the picture the way I want them to see it. And I think what's great about being able to see this film in 35 and at this festival, and especially in the Midnight Madness section, is the sense of crowd and the community in there. Everyone's been kind of telling me like what to expect. So I've never been to like this festival before, and I've kind of read up on it and read up about the Midnight Madness crowd. But everyone's kind of been telling me how, like, what the buzz will be like, how the crowd will respond to certain scenes. And that kind of atmosphere, like, you don't get that when you sit on your home alone watching stuff on like a television or a laptop. So
sure,
yeah.
And this is the first Indonesian film to premiere,
apparently
open
so,
up
yeah.
Midnight Madness.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations
yeah.
on
Thank
that.
you so much.
That's
yeah.
quite something. What are you working on next?
We're developing a couple of ideas. We got a few films. We have one which is a sequel to this one, which we're kind of, I got maybe like 10% left to write of that one. Which we're hoping to kind of start next year, hopefully.
What's it called?
Merantau. It's an Indonesian title. The real title would be kind of like Thug or Delinquent, but we'll find a better English title for that.
Are you going to make any North American films?
I'd hope to at some point, yeah, for sure. I mean, like right now I'm kind of like obsessed with this, like the action genre and stuff, and in my immediate future seems to be like in Indonesia, but for sure I'd love to kind of make my stamp over here maybe and try and do a couple of films. It'd be nice to do something English language as well.
Yes, well, that's what I think that's what I meant too.
Yeah.
For a change.
Exactly.
Something different for you, right?
Writing the script in English, but then it gets translated in Indonesian, and then it's a different thing. Then directing them in Indonesian is very different.
Well, and difficult, I would imagine. For
Yeah. I've got better now. Now that I understand
Yeah.
Indonesian more, it's like I can kind of pick up on intonation if it's not right. But yeah, on the first movie it was very hard. Yeah.
Now, before we close, can you talk a little bit about the star of your movie, Weiss? Is that
Iko Weiss.
Iko Weiss.
Yeah.
Iko Weiss. What is it about him? He started in your last film. You brought him back for this one.
Yeah.
What is it about him that makes him so special?
Well, I think I'll go back to when we were doing the documentary. We were researching like different schools, and we were going to follow his master for a storyline on one of the sort of episodes in the documentary. And while we were doing research, I'd have like my little handy cam, and we'd film general day-to-day thing, and there was like a practice session. So this master had like 15 of his students there, and Iko was one of those students. And we'd met him before, and he was, I don't know if you've met Iko yet, but he's very sort of like shy, quiet, very sort of gentle guy. And then all of a sudden he put on his uniform and then started practicing, and then like he just transformed completely. And when we were filming the footage of the practice to get for my DOP to see what he was going to be shooting, every time we were shooting the practice group, we kept kind of like focusing on Iko because he stood out from the group. It sounds cheeseball to say it, but he kind of had this like presence about him. And right at the time, I said to my wife, who was my production manager on the documentary, I said, let's keep in touch with him and just see if we can kind of figure out a way to work with him on something, maybe like a TV show or a film. And so we said to him then, we said, look, I'm going to come back to Indonesia at some point, because we were only there for 6 months, and I said, I'm going to come back to Indonesia at some point, I want to make a film with you. And he was like, yeah, okay, no problem, I believe you. And then when we came back finally, we asked him like how long he had left on his contract, because he was working as a messenger for a phone company, so just like delivering like documents back and forth. And he said like, I've got 3-4 weeks left in my contract. Like, oh great, okay, quit after that, finish the job, and then we're gonna make a film. And he still didn't believe me, but he quit his job, so he had some faith in me. And like he tells me now that he didn't really fully believe me until the first day of the shoot. So I don't know if he thought it was like some elaborate prank that we did with the pre-production, but yeah.
Wow.
Since then we've worked together.
And he's been sort of touted as the next big
Yeah.
action star.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, he's kind of like a little brother to me, like because we've known each other since the documentary, and we've gone through this process together. Because Merantau was my first big movie too, and like this is the second movie, and so every time like he gets like the success and the response from that, it's the same for myself too, and we're kind of both going through this process at the same time, and it's just really great to see people like take to him and realize. I think they see like the likability in him as well, because he plays the role with a certain amount of vulnerability too. He's not just like a blank-faced killing machine that goes through every scene and just beats people up. Like you feel like he could get beat. You feel like he could take a couple of knocks before he wins at the end of the movie.
True. What a nice story.
Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations once again. Much success with this film.
Thank you very, very much. Pleasure.